a project of Hartman's Community Center and King Pine Farm Studios. Donate to Hartman's Community Center today, 41 Main Street East, Milton, Ontario, Canada, L9T1N2. Hartman's Community Center is a registered charity with Revenue Canada and can offer tax-deductible receipts for donations made to it. To impress my young daughter, who my estranged wife had taken away from me, I, her father, had willingly sacrificed my humanity and my identity to become from something that was smaller than a tiller of the earth to something that was bigger and just as heavy as a tiller of the earth. However, although my reptilian brain was sluggish and slow in my new form, I realized over the years that she was taking less interest in me, her own personal Puff the Magic Dragon, and more interest in boys. It seemed reasonable that eventually she would lose interest in me, and I would be endangered. What little dragon foresight I did have told me that one day, while my older grown-up daughter was heading off conveniently to a nail manicure place, her latest boyfriend would take a bow and arrow and put me out of commission, and they would have my hoard to themselves. It would, of course, have been for the better for me. I decided I really didn't like that idea of my fate, and I knew that there was a magical spell that allowed me to take on a human form again for 7 years. Considering that as a dragon I could live 10,000 years, I considered the 7 years in this human shell acceptable. So, when her latest beau came along, I forced him to kiss me 3 times, and it set in motion the spell that would return me to a human form. That sluggish brain of mine told me I would be coming back as a maiden. So I went back into my cave to await my return to a human shell, whilst her beau fled from me and my rather foul, slimy lips. However, as I began to get smaller and shrink, I realized that I had forgotten about some unfinished business in my files, and also there was that hoard that needed to be protected. As a smaller human maiden, I wouldn't be able to protect my hoard from any greedy beaux that my older daughter might come up with. So I flew onto the top of the cliff above my lair, and scrabbling about not to plunge down the steep sides, I set up a keg of TNT and lit it, and blew up a rock slide which covered up my lair pretty good. And then I proceeded to change back into my human shell and walked by and noticed my daughter, who had always thought she would be inheriting my hoard, shocked to discover that my lair was now covered with tons and hundreds of tons of debris and big boulders, and presumably her former dad was now locked inside the lair, sealed forever and buried. I went on my way and had new plans for my 7 years in this human form, and decided my daughter would just have to get on with her own life, since she now seemed to be more interested in boyfriends than in me.